Let's look at basic guidelines and tips for effective note-taking. We will be reviewing 4 guidelines. Number 1, don't write down every word. Number 2, focus on the meaning of each sentence. Number 3, jot down keywords. And number 4, identify the who, what, when, where, how, and why. The first guideline is, try not to write down every word. Remember, you're not a stenographer. Some commonly used abbreviations are PG for page, MN for minute, HR for hour, and then some of the more industry-specific symbols, such as RX for prescription. Here are some examples of common abbreviations that will enable you to remember information and reconstruct the message. SS pound for Social Security number, ST for street, AVE for avenue, or LN for lane, TX for Texas, E for east, and to make sure E will always have the same meaning, DOB for date of birth, and so on. The use of symbols is another way to indicate meaning. Be sure your symbols don't have double meaning and be consistent in their use to prevent confusion later. Let's look at the following symbols. An arrow to the left may refer to anything from the past, while an arrow to the right may refer to anything from the future. Plus or ampersand may refer to anything that is added, additional, or extra. An arrow going upward, meaning anything increasing, going up, or growing. An arrow pointing downward, meaning anything going down or decreasing. A minus sign, meaning without or negative. Here are some other examples. Another practical note-taking tip is to omit vowels whenever possible. For example, APPMT for appointment, CMMTT for committee, UNDSTNG for understanding, DVLPM for development, and so forth. Try these words: compensation, craftsmanship, childhood, consistently. Here are some examples of using common abbreviations, symbols, and omitting vowels. My former doctor told me I needed knee surgery and therapy. Is that still true? Your annual deductible is $1,000. Your office copay is $20 per visit. Let's look at guideline number 2. Listen attentively, focusing your attention on the meaning of each sentence. Remember, interpreters must interpret meaning for meaning. Let's look at the following example. To receive unemployment benefits, there is a waiting period of 1 week. The pieces of information that you need to recall in the example are receive unemployment benefits and waiting period of 1 week. Let's see if you can do it. Take a moment and read the sentence. Apply the guidelines and see what you can do with your note-taking skills. Suggestion of how you can apply the guidelines. After son had bike accident and he has been limping. Let's try it again. There is a blackout in your area. That is why you have no power at home. Suggestion of how you can apply the guidelines. Now let's take a look at note-taking guideline number 3. Jot down the keywords that will bring back the information within a few seconds. Your short-term memory enables you to fill in the blanks. In a sentence, you only need to write down a few abbreviated words. Let's look at the following example. This call is from Bank of the Nile per your request to remind you that your first mortgage payment is due on June 1st. Your short-term memory will help you remember this call is from and to remind you. Now you try it. I already called you last week. I have not received the checks that I ordered. I'm worried someone may have gotten them and my identity may be compromised. Suggestion of how you can apply the guidelines. Once again, your short-term memory will be able to recall the missing words from your notes so that you will be able to reconstruct the entire utterance. Finally, let's look at guideline number 4. All sentences can be broken down into who, what, when, where, how, and or why. That doesn't mean that every sentence will have all of those elements, but all sentences will contain some of those elements, which are the most important pieces of information. Let's go back to an earlier example. This call is from Bank of the Nile per your request to remind you that your first mortgage payment is due on June 1st. The what is to remind you that the first mortgage payment is due. The why is per your request. The when is June 1st. So you can see in this example that not all of those elements are within each sentence, but the most important pieces of information will be conveyed by who, what, when, where, how, and why. You may also see lines drawn to separate previous information and the use of lines to avoid having to rewrite words that were already written. You may also see the end of each sentence marked with a horizontal line. This is to help avoid run-on sentences and to reconstruct the utterance clearly. Now we're going to show sentences using all the suggestions shared with you to illustrate how your notes may look at the end of a call. Pay attention to keywords, abbreviations, symbols, to see if you can decode the jotted down ideas. There is a $29.99 purchase with your debit card at Pantera. After you used it, your balance was negative. The $39 charge is an overdraft fee. You must deposit a minimum of $100 to bring your balance back. Let's try one more. Your blood test results show your LDL or bad cholesterol is borderline at 159 milligrams per deciliter. Your good cholesterol or HDL is less than 40 milligrams per deciliter, which is good. Your triglycerides are at 149 milligrams per deciliter, which is good, so you're at no risk of heart disease, but you still need to watch your diet and do more physical exercise. As the saying goes, practice makes perfect. We hope these tips and guidelines will help you become accurate and complete in your renditions. Happy interpreting!